All right, all right, all right. What is up, my fellow nerds and gangsters? Welcome back to the Spimpy Nerd Herder channel, where today we are talking about some giggity giggity goo Armageddon. Armageddon, baby. Okay, so if you've seen Armageddon, all three of you, I want to know what do you guys think? What did you guys think of this movie? It came out in 1996. It's very much a 90s film for sure. And it's, well, it's a 90s film. What's up, text message? All right. First off, that cool taco, I see you're commenting. Let me know if you can hear me. So I'm not just talking into the wind here. So one thing that I don't know if you know this, but J.J. Abrams was one of the writers on Armageddon. It was one of his earliest films. He wrote it like in his 20s. Ridiculous. I think he was still in college, in fact, when he was writing this movie. So it's pretty awesome. So let's just start off. I love this movie. I grew up with this movie. It's got great humor. It has great heart. There is a character through line throughout the entire film that makes it fabulous. At least I think so. But I like the opening too because it starts off. I'm going to be a little bit more careful too today by just playing stuff. But it starts off by kind of giving us a backstory about this comet hitting the Earth 65 million years ago when it destroyed the dinosaurs. And the narrator, who kind of sounds like Optimus Prime, I wouldn't be surprised if it was the same person, but he says it's happened once and it can happen again. And so we automatically know everything that's at stake for this video, or not for this video. What am I saying? For this film. If the comet does hit the Earth, what's going to go down? So let me see here. Now, Michael Bay is infamously infamous for his camera movement. So that's easily one of his coolest trademarks. So we see it on full display very early on when they're watching when the meteor shower begins to hit the astronaut working on some satellites. And you see all this blowing up, but then the camera starts to move like crazy, especially right here. Sorry. Outrageous. Come on. There we go. Okay, so the camera starts to move like crazy. We have a lot of push-ins. I'm talking particularly in the NASA portion. There we go. Now it's just going. It's just going. It's like nobody's business. I need to go up here a little bit more. I mean, I just love the way he does it. Let me see if I can get even further. A little imprecise here. But Michael Bay is the king of this. So that's what I want to get. There we go. Okay, there we go. Now that's a Michael Bay shot right there, where the camera is spinning in one direction around the character while the character himself is turning in the opposite direction. It accentuates the movement of the character's turn and it also accentuates the camera movement itself. So we got Carly, we got Uncle Taco. What's up? Are you guys friends? I assume you are, the way you were chatting it up last night. What do you guys think of Armageddon? Have you seen it? First off, let me know if you've seen it. Because if you haven't seen it, spoiler, a giant meteor is coming towards the Earth, and they do or do not destroy it. They destroy the meteor before it gets there. The entire story is essentially this meteor the size of Texas is coming to hit the Earth. It doesn't matter where it hits. Basically, if it hits anywhere, the whole Earth is going to be destroyed. And they hire a guy named Harry Stamper, who is what am I blanking on? Bruce Willis's character. And basically, him and his team have to drill a hole. They have to go up, land on the asteroid, drill a hole into it, drop a nuclear warhead into it to blow it up. And it's absolutely outrageous. So this is contrasting heavily with Contagion that we talked about last night, where Contagion is very, very grounded. It's very much something that, yeah, that could happen easily, and it kind of is happening at the current moment. But Armageddon, the last comet that was a planet killer hit us 65 million years ago. And so it's like, what are the chances of this? Not very high, but it's a freaking blockbuster event. Okay, so you guys both haven't seen Armageddon. Well, that's disappointing. Any of you guys other watching, let me know if you've seen it. So we have a lot of things that Michael Bay does for us here. So, for instance, he schools us on what a true ticking clock is. So, a ticking clock is basically every single story needs a ticking clock. In a romantic comedy, the ticking clock is the girl is gonna fly away for 17 years, and unless the guy gets to the airport on time at the end to basically profess his love to her, he's lost out all hope. A ticking clock in Star Wars, like particularly Episode 3, is for Anakin. The ticking clock is Padme is going to die when she gives childbirth. Unless he discovers a way to save her, she's dead. So that's the ticking clock. In the original Star Wars, one ticking clock that was done in editing is when the Death Star is rotating around the planet Yavin to destroy the Rebel base, and you constantly hearing 10 minutes to the Death Star's in range or whatever. And so and we have that gold talk. And my favorite romantic comedy is Attack of the Clones. That's a comedy right there. Natalie Franceschi says, I've seen it. I know you've seen it. Natalie and I grew up on this movie. Our mother was obsessed with it, and so that's why I really wanted to watch this again and talk about it with you. Dale Erdman. Hey, Dale, what's up, man? You've seen it. Okay, cool. So a few of you have seen it. That's great. But so back to this idea of the ticking clock. Michael Bay goes above and beyond to what a ticking clock is. And so they're talking about the meteor, and let's listen to how much time they got. So home slice is, he's running in, and then...
We have 18 days before it hits Earth.
18 days! What's up? You got 18 days to go and destroy this asteroid the size of Texas before it hits Earth. What's up, Henry Louis? And so that is a outrageous ticking clock, but it basically puts the pedal to the metal in this story immediately. So I really like that. And throughout the film, they're constantly going back to the the countdown clock in NASA of how much time they got. They're always bringing it up, and so basically virtually every story needs some sort of ticking clock. So I really enjoyed that here. Now, here we get to when Harry, Bruce Willis' character, catches his daughter in bed with Ben Affleck's character, AJ Frost. And we learn immediately what her relationship is with her father when he pulls back the covers with like a golf wedge and he says like, "Hi, Grace," and she's like, "Hi, Harry." And he says, "I have asked you repeatedly to call me Dad." And she replies, "Sorry, Harry." Done. We know immediately what type of relationship they have. It's not even a question. This is his daughter that will not call her father Dad. And so I was really impressed by this. I knew that was the dialogue, but when I watched it again, preparing for this, it really struck me as a very effective piece of dialogue. You don't normally refer to Michael Bay's films as dialogue strong things, but honestly, in Michael Bay's earlier stuff like Armageddon, I think he was much more story and character driven than he is now. Okay, so what's up? So, hey dude, Dale, what's up? Dale says they call me Bruce. All right, Brucey. I'll try to remember that. The Jaws shark was named Bruce. All right. you and I watched it for different reasons. Ben Affleck was dreaming when you were 4. Yeah, Ben Affleck has put on the pounds too. I was also surprised by how young he looks in this. Okay, so after this scene, when he catches AJ or his daughter in bed with AJ, he walks around shooting at AJ and yelling at him. And AJ's running, and they're on an oil rig too, so there's not really any place AJ can go. But, and sorry, I got to kind of pause it here and there because I don't want to get copyrighted again like last night. And as Harry's running around with this gun, he's encountering all of the main characters that we're going to be with on this journey. Like Michael Clark Duncan's character, Steve Buscemi's character, Holmes Lies from Remember the Titans. I don't know his name, but his name is Chick in the film. He's like Harry's right-hand man. But I was impressed in how good it was to introduce these characters in this outrageous situation of Harry trying to shoot AJ. All right, so Henry Lewis asked, are all of these movies you're covering all end of the world movies? So no. So if you, in the description of the video, you can see the watch list. Every day, Monday through Saturday, we're watching a new film. And we're going to be kind of watching them in twos. And so the first two, we started with Contagion and now Armageddon. Both are end of the world movies, but on vastly different ends of the spectrum. One is very grounded, one is very fantastical. I think the next films we're watching, if I recall, Monday and Tuesday, is then Captain America and Captain America Winter Soldier. And for those reasons, we're watching those two movies for the reason of, well, first off, I watched Captain America with my wife because she's like, well, I guess we have time to watch all the Marvel movies now, and she hasn't seen them all. But we watched Captain America, and then Captain America Winter Soldier is a vastly different film in style, somewhat in tone. It's done by different directors. And so we want to look at, it's the exact same story, exact same characters, but pretty different directions of how we're made. So the next two films we're going to be watching, we're going to be analyzing for that reason. So let's see here. I'm just going to confirm that. Yeah, so, and then we're going to be watching Dark Knight and Dark Knight Rises. Giddy up. Okay, so more on the oil rig later when Harry is kind of confronting his daughter about, you can't be with AJ. I'm telling you can't. And she's saying, you know what, you basically raised me on an oil rig. Did you ever think that I was not going to end up with somebody like that? They're doing this, and she is giving a tour to some Chinese like investors or something like that, or Japanese investors. And so they're constantly kind of having to hide their conversation. It would be a lot worse if they were in a scene like this, where they're just in an office having this conversation. It would be an extremely weaker scene. So if you ever have a dialogue scene where you're like, oh, this is kind of weak, how can I change the circumstances? And maybe you're like, okay, why don't I put them in a circumstance where they got to hide what they're talking about? Or maybe I got to put them in a circumstance where the one person actually has to do something that's like way more important than the conversation, and so they're distracted. You can take it any direction you want, but typically two people talking, sitting down with not doing anything, tends to be fairly boring. Give them something to do. It also helps with acting too. If you're directing, especially novice actors, and they're just really struggling and they're just not getting the line rights and they're just overemphasizing things and they're just not in the moment, give them something to do. I mean, it could be as simple as, you know what, why don't you get up and go get a sandwich from the fridge? Pretend that the fridge handle won't open for a little, you got to kind of rough it open and then get the sandwich out, make the sandwich, do whatever you want, and then come back and sit down. You're going to find, usually, that the actions become a lot more natural because now the actor is not so much in the headspace of trying to just deliver memorized lines. So that particular example is from a book called, oh man, I think it's Directing Actors. It's a book by Judith Weston, which I highly, highly recommend about acting. Okay, so I want to know what you guys liked about Armageddon. You know, I'm kind of talking about general filmmaking stuff here, but let me know what you guys do like about Armageddon, and or if you don't like it, let me know that too. I mean, it's a '90s film. Uh, I still love it. It's got the kind of cheesy, song montages, especially with Aerosmith, and I don't want to miss a thing. Um, but that's '90s for you. I mean, it is what it is. Okay, so let's let me just look at my notes here. One thing that I do when I watch films, I learned this from John August's podcast, Script Notes, is um, every time you watch a movie, write notes down, and because so you can just refer to them later. Because if you don't, then you fall into the trap of making a movie the same way as the last movie you saw. So we tend to say, "Oh man, I really liked this part in The Rise of Skywalker. I want to make my scene just like that." But if you have notes from 5 years of watching movies, you don't fall into that trap as easy because you can go back and look at your notes. So Henry Louis says, "I thought it was okay. I want to know why, Henry. What did you not like? What did you like? Let me know." Okay, so, and did you watch it recently, or how long has it been since you watched it? Let us know. Um, okay, so um, one last kind of just general filmmaking thing is so Harry goes, he learns about all of what's going down with the asteroid, and he goes and gets his crew back. Um, they all arrive to NASA, and they're all like super hopped up on goofballs and stuff. Okay, they're really excited, and then boom. Look at their reactions.
Oh, you have to go.
We know right away what they've just been told. A lot of times we fall into the trap when we're writing screenplays of telling the audience something that they already know. You don't need to do that. That's a bunch of nonsense, and it's boring because if the audience knows it, there's never a reason to mention it again unless you're kind of doing your halfway 2/3 recap, which most scripts have, where they have a general recap of what's going down to remind us of the stakes. But I remember I once read a script from a first-time screenwriter, and look, I'm not anybody special. I've never won an Oscar or anything like that. But an attack happened, and we saw it all happen. Then they ran into a room, and the person's like, "What just happened?" And the people who were just in it all proceeded to tell them everything that just happened. And then they went into another room with another person, and that person asked, "What just happened?" And then they like recounted it all again. And I'm like, dude, we know this. You don't need to say it again. Once you know it, get on with it. And so I really liked this scene in Armageddon where they're super excited getting to NASA, and then they cut, and they're just going like this, and you know right away what they've been told. And so it was good, just visual storytelling. Okay, so Carly Johnson is Liv Tyler in this movie. She was an elf in Lord of the Rings. She was Arwen in Lord of the Rings. Yeah. So Liv Tyler used to be the shiz. I mean, she was in everything, and this was one of her breakout roles, if not her breakout role. And so, okay, so Henry Leese says, "I did like the emotional scenes in the movie, and there was some generic stuff in it as well that kind of bored me when watching. Generic now, but when it came out, it wasn't as generic. So that's kind of important to say. But yeah, I mean, it is a generic film, of course. It is your standard blockbuster, let's blow up the earth and let's try to stop it film. Okay, let's see here. So, but yeah, Henry, you're absolutely right. A lot of generic stuff in the film, but still fun. But you mentioned the emotional scenes. So let's kind of compare this to Contagion. Contagion, we had the scene where like Kate Winslet's character was dying on basically her gurney in the makeshift hospital, and her partner next to her is cold, and she tries to give her coat to the guy, but she dies in the process. And then the next thing we see, she's being buried in a mass grave. The CDC like bigwig is being buried and died like everybody else. We had the moment when Lawrence Fishburne's character gives the cure to the janitor's little boy. Of course, we have Matt Damon learning that his wife has passed away, and he just can't process it because how could my perfectly healthy woman just pass away? And so we had those emotional things. But at the same time, because they were also kind of from a macro angle too, because we were never with a lot of these characters for very long. Um, so it was very realistic. Soderbergh in that film was not really trying to mess with our emotions in that way. It was just more of a fear film. Like he trying, at least that the way I felt. This is my interpretation. He was trying to kind of show us something that could actually happen, and let us feel the fear for ourselves. Armageddon is not that. Armageddon wants you to feel like, for instance, this is a spoiler at the end of the film when let's see here. When AJ, Liv Tyler's booty call, when he draws the short straw to stay behind to detonate the nuclear warhead because the remote detonator breaks. Of course, right? What can go wrong must go wrong in these films. And I'm actually going to get to that. But he basically draws the short straw, and he goes down to do it, and Harry goes with him. But then Harry pushes him into the airlock, and he's not going to let him come back. So Harry basically is going to sacrifice himself, and he goes and he says essentially, you need to go take care of my little girl. And this is a big thing because throughout the entire film, at the very beginning, he does not think AJ is good enough for his daughter. He does not want his daughter marrying a roughneck. But over the course of the film, their joint arc is learning to love each other, and not only just accept each other, but to love each other. And so there are a lot of emotional parts. Now, some of the parts that I really, really liked, and I think Michael Bay is pretty good at these moments. If I can, Michael Bay likes to show rural America. So, like, when the president is talking, and he's talking about what's going to go down, we see all these shots of just average Americans. And there's, like, look at this shot. There's, like, this could very well be a shot with multiple generations in it. We got Gramps with the bigote there, the massive mustache. We maybe got mom, we got son, we got maybe some uncles. He likes to play on nostalgia factors. I mean, just look at this. And there's another American flag. He loves that. He loves the American flag. I mean, what I should have done is just watch this film, counting the number of times you see American flags. And he likes those sun flares and everything. And then later, when we learn that they're gonna fail, because at one point they fail their mission, and they say, "There's nothing we can do. We're all gonna die." We see again rural America. We see these kids running into a storm shelter, and kind of with this very majestic, kind of sappy music, and there's a lot of those emotional parts in this film, and with no dialogue. I like those moments. I do like kind of the fantastical, over-the-top storytelling. Not quite at the level of like Fast and the Furious, but I like this level. I like kind of the Star Wars level that is very imaginative rather than super, super grounded. But so Henry Lewis has got a question. Quick question. What are your thoughts on Michael Bay's Pearl Harbor? Personally, I hated that film. Man, Henry, it's been like 1,000 generations since I've seen that film. I don't remember loving it, so maybe that's my answer. I honestly, from what I do remember it, I think if I were to watch it again, I don't think I would like it because that was very, very thick on the kind of the romantic relationship, and probably a little bit too much. With what's his name? I can't even remember. Danny was Ben Affleck's character, but the other character, how he dies, and Danny has to raise the child and all that stuff. It was a little bit too soap opera-y, but it was, it is what it is. Okay, so let's see here. So now back to what can go wrong, what must go wrong. I know there was another point here that I wanted to go over. Okay, so when they go to fuel in the Russian space station, let's see. They go to get fuel in the Russian space station, and what goes down? Well, not Chinatown, that's for sure. The fuel explodes, and they have to escape, and yada yada yada. People almost die, and it's just a great example of what can go wrong must go wrong. And so this can be done in anything that you're writing. The mantra, what can go wrong must go wrong, is true for any script. And so you think of, oh man, what's an example? I mean, you guys probably can think of some examples. You have, why am I just totally blanking? Well, in this film, when they get in fuel, the fuel thing blows up and they almost die. And they don't get as much fuel as they need. But still 90%. So it wasn't total a catastrophe. Well, because if they would have died here, there would be no rest of the movie. When they get to the asteroid, it's supposed to be an easy landing because the moon's gravity is going to basically suck all the tail of the asteroid into its gravitational pull. But instead, what it did is it makes the asteroid spin. And so it really screws them up. One of the shuttles totally just crashes and burns. So now they're down to one shuttle. Then Bruce Willis's group burns all their drill bits and their transmissions. So now they can't drill anymore. And so now they're all just screwed. But then AJ shows up and they start drilling again. But as they're drilling, the president decides, you know what, they're not going to make it. Let's just detonate the bombs. So even though they've got the hole, now they got to basically stop this bomb from exploding. And so it's constantly just one problem after another. Okay, so Henry says, the problem with the film is its historical inaccuracies in the bland, uninteresting love triangle. Yeah, I generally agree with that. I think you're onto something there. Okay, let's see. Liv is awesome. Maybe they should get her to play Ahsoka. She'd be an interesting choice, actually. That's good. Bruce. All right. No Star Wars. No, we don't talk about Star Wars on this channel. No. Okay. Padme dying in childbirth. That is what can go wrong will go wrong. That's a great one. Good job. Okay. I think she gave her life to Anakin, knowing that he is still good in him, to give him a chance to find the light again. Ooh, we're getting into deep Star Wars lore here. Or was it Palpatine that took her life force to save Anakin? Dun dun dun. Because apparently Palpatine knew how to cheat death. That's a whole other topic. Okay. Could have been a combination of CVP stealing it from her. I like Palpsy Boy, but or Grandpa Palps. But CVP's a good one. I like that. I haven't heard that one. Okay. Let's see here. So yeah, in general, I like Armageddon. I think it's a fun movie. It's something that I found a pleasure to watch again after, I mean, honestly, probably could be 20 years since I've seen this movie. I was reminded on, definitely its 90ness, but that's okay. You rewatch the original Star Wars, it feels 70s, but that's okay. We don't hold that against it. The visual effects are, they're generally strong. A lot was done practically, of course. But some of the visual effects are also not that great. Okay, let's see here. Miguel Lopez, hey mate from Australia, stay safe all. You too. You too. Definitely be praying for the people who have COVID, of course, and those who are being affected not only physically but emotionally and economically. So stay safe and down under too. All right. So is there anything else that you guys want to talk about in regards to just end of the world films? Particularly, if you want about Contagion or about Armageddon. Miguel, have you seen Armageddon? Let us know. Because a few of us have, but some of us haven't. And that's unacceptable. All right. Trying to see here if there's anything else in my notes. No. All right. So, yeah. All right, guys. Well, go see this movie if you haven't seen it because it's awesome. It's a popcorn film through and through. So if you're expecting something really really deep, it's probably not that. But I think it's one of Michael Bay's strongest films. Um, and it pays special attention too about the uh, to his camera work. You can always learn something about Michael Bay's camera work and how he moves it and how he accentuates the movement. So I mentioned earlier that if a camera is circling somebody, they are circling in the opposite direction. So it accentuates both their movement and the camera. Um, he's a master of it. For all all of his perceived faults that people throw on him, he is a master of moving the camera. Um, are all of his camera movements motivated? No, not at all. And so it's not like a Spielberg camera movement where every single movement is motivated, or David Fincher, like where sometimes he'll only move the camera when a character is moving. Michael Bay is not that. Uh, so it's a very completely different style, but he owns it. And that is his style. And so when you watch a Michael Bay film, it feels apropos to whatever story he's telling. And unfortunately, they are usually big action set pieces. So all I have to say about Armageddon is that it's better than his horrible Transformers movies. You know what? That should just be the subtitle of this entire video because I agree with you, Henry. Um, it's not the best film in the world, I'll say that, but it's better than the Transformers movies. There is no doubt about that. The first one was okay, and then just it crashed like an asteroid crashing into the Earth after the first one. Even though the first one wasn't that good, I don't even think you can call it good. I mean, I didn't care for it that much, but compared to the 2, 3, 7, and 9, and however many there are, it's definitely the best of them. At least it attempted to have a story instead of just retconning the entire thing. It's like, oh, Autobots have been here before. Actually, wait, no, they've actually been here earlier. Actually, wait, they've actually been here with the dinosaurs. It's just like, oh my gosh. But anyways, I digress. And thanks so much for joining me today, guys. So on Monday, we'll be talking about Captain America, the first one. So the one directed by Joe Johnston, who directed he directed Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. I think that was his debut feature. The Rocketeer, October Sky. He worked in the art department first for Lucasfilm and on Empire Strikes Back. Was somewhat instrumental in designing the look of Boba Fett. So he has long wanted to direct a Boba Fett film because of that. And so we'll be looking at that film, and then on Tuesday we'll be doing Captain America: Winter Soldier. Very different film, but the same character. So, thanks guys for joining me today, all 7 or 8 of you. I love you. I just do this for fun. You know, I'm not making $3 million a week off this. I probably make 3 cents, if that. But it's a way that I can watch movies and just talk about them with somebody. So, all right, guys, remember to stay. Well, what's my tagline again? Oh yeah, you guys are doing it in the comments. Remember to stay spiffy and don't do anything I